What's up, everyone? Welcome to the March 2nd edition of FanDuel Tournament Plays presented by PrizePicks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. Today, we're going to take a look at 5 of the top tournament options on tonight's 8-game NBA slate. We actually don't have that much injury news that we're waiting on, but there are still a few key pieces that could change things. So as always, be sure to tune into the deeper dive and live before lock in the 2 hours leading up till tip on the Awesemo YouTube channel. But for now, we're going to take a look at 5 of the top tournament options on FanDuel as things currently stand. Number 5, Buddy Hield is projected for about 4% ownership with a 10% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Hield has played huge minutes since joining the Indiana Pacers. He's averaged 38.7 minutes per game, and he's averaged just shy of one FanDuel point per minute at 0.95 FanDuel points per minute. One reason that we could see his ownership decreasing, not only is his salary increasing, but Malcolm Brogdon is available tonight for the Indiana Pacers. I don't think that actually has too much of an impact on Hield, though. We haven't seen a very high usage rate from him since joining Indiana. He only has about a 21.2% usage rate. So bringing back Brogdon doesn't necessarily take that much shot volume away from Hield because he's been more of a volume. He's been getting there more on playing time and on volume than he has on, getting up a lot of shots or having a high usage rate in a shorter period of time. I don't think Brogdon being back is going to impact Hield's playing time all that much. He's actually averaged about 40 minutes per game in the 2 games he's played with Brogdon. Even if you assume he's playing like 36 minutes on average, 36 to 38, at 0.95 fantasy points per minute, he's going to look like a pretty decent option. He's only $7,500 and has shooting guard and small forward eligibility in a good matchup against the Orlando Magic. Number 4, Will Barton is $5,700 with shooting guard and small forward eligibility. He's projected for 6% ownership with a 10% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Barton has averaged 0.88 FanDuel points per minute and 31.6 minutes per game in the games that he's played without Michael Porter Jr. and with Nikola Jokic this season. He's got a favorable matchup against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Denver has a very healthy 120 implied total. There is blowout risk in this game, but for one, if Denver does score a ton of points in a hurry, then there's a good chance at least one of their starters are being much more productive than normal on a per minute basis. But also, I mean, a game can end in a blowout and you only lose a couple minutes at the end of the game, which typically isn't going to end up being that huge of a deal. Barton at $5,700 does offer some value here, assuming he lands in the 30 to 32 minute range. Number 3, Drew Holiday. Difficult matchup tonight against the Miami Heat. He's only projected for 8% ownership, but he has about a 12% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Holiday is $8,000. He has point guard and shooting guard eligibility. In the games that he's played with Giannis Antetokounmpo and with Chris Middleton, both active this year, Holiday has averaged 1.07 FanDuel points per minute, so we've still seen a productive player in Holiday. He's likely to lead the starters in minutes if this game's competitive, and there's a pretty good chance this game's competitive. Milwaukee's a 5-point favorite at home, and one thing that I think actually makes this matchup almost good in a way, while Miami is they're a slow team, they defend really well, this slate has 4 different games of the 8 that have double-digit point spreads. Now, again, not all of those games are going to blow out, and blowouts don't even necessarily mean that all the starters, only play 24 minutes or anything. But you do, I think, it's a benefit that this game's likely to be close when there's a pretty good chance half the games on the slate are not. This should be a competitive game between 2 of the better teams in the East. There's a decent chance that we get 36 minutes from Drew Holiday here at over a fantasy point per minute rate. Number 2, LaMelo Ball, also in a difficult matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's projected for 16% ownership with a 20% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Ball's only $8,000 on FanDuel. He's also only point guard eligible. In the 15 games he's played without Gordon Hayward this year, Ball has averaged 1.27 FanDuel points per minute. If this game's competitive, he's likely to give you 32 or 33 minutes, potentially a little bit more if he plays well and is able to avoid foul trouble. But he's a very high upside option that isn't getting much ownership and is at a very favorable price tag given his upside. And number 1, Malcolm Brogdon, $6,300 on FanDuel with point guard and shooting guard eligibility. Brogdon is projected for a healthy 28% ownership, but he also has a 36% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Brogdon has a favorable matchup against the Orlando Magic. This game has one of the higher totals on the slate and is also the closest spread on the slate. So a couple of things working in its favor. Brogdon's played about 30 minutes in his first 2 games back from injury, but he didn't play the fourth quarter in either of those games. So I think that there's a good chance, if tonight's game is competitive, that you get 32 or 33 minutes from Brogdon, who's averaged 1.06 FanDuel points per minute this season. His rates are likely to decrease a little bit with Tyrese Halliburton on Indiana, but at the same time, he spent a lot of the season playing with combinations of Domantas Sabonis and Karis LeVert. So I don't view Halliburton as too much of a drop-off for Brogdon when you compare him to the time he's played with those guys. In the 2 games he's played with Halliburton, he still has a usage rate and an assist percentage both north of 20%. Brogdon rather, looks very underpriced tonight. So even at pretty high ownership, he looks to be going a little bit under-owned. So to recap, the top 5 tournament options on FanDuel as things currently stand: number 5, Buddy Hield; number 4, Will Barton; number 3, Drew Holiday; number 2, LaMelo Ball; and number 1, Malcolm Brogdon.